you doing, everybody? How about this for a backdrop? You just hear the very noisy geese going past. It's finally stopped raining. We have had some rain. It feels as though it's been raining solid now for about 2 weeks. Everywhere we've been, when we've been out, we've had loads and loads of rain. Everywhere's wet through. I'm actually back on the River Trent, and it's just gone 12 o'clock. We've really spent the morning fishing for dace and roach and small fish. As a lot of you may know, quite a lot of our river feeder fishing through the summer months does revolve around the smaller silverfish like roach and dace. And when you obviously put that in the context that a lot of the competitions I fish are feeder only competitions, that inevitably means that we've got to learn how to catch those fish on the feeder. It's currently Monday, and this Saturday it's the final round of the Feeder Masters Super League, and that is going to be held right here on the River Trent, and this is Burton Joyce. This is the day ticket stretch that you will have seen in other videos. They do have the or currently have the Angling Trust Riverfest final here as well. There are Feeder Masters qualifiers here as well, and we've been here today. I'm here with Max Stevens and James Place, my two fellow Dam Buster teammates. Unfortunately Danny couldn't make it today, and we've been here today just to kind of work on our silverfish game, and that's what we've been doing all morning. So I've already got a few dace, a few roach, a couple of perch as well in the net anyway. However, it's 12 o'clock and the river behind me, which I'll show you in a little bit more detail in a moment, is actually rising. As I've just said, we've had loads and loads of rain, and I expected the conditions of the river being a lot worse than it actually is. However, you might just make out there are huge trees and branches and logs and all sorts going down the river. Now, when we got here for the first hour, the water level didn't change, all right, and I'll show you how it has changed, but it's literally gone up since about 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock. In the last 2 hours it's actually risen by about probably 3 inch, which is quite a lot, and it looks like it still is rising, and obviously that can affect the condition of the river. So I'm just going to show you what I'm doing now, because I'm just about to change the approach. Dace fishing, you know, I have done videos on that right here on this channel, so you can check out the playlist for that. But there are, you know, I have done videos actually on this stretch fishing for dace, and I do go into depth about the rig and everything. However, I'm going to fish, you know, a different way now. I'm going to see if there are any bonus fish there. So I'm actually currently on peg 2. If I show you there we go, peg 2. Okay, and peg 1 is just down there. That is where James is. I've got the brolly up just purely because I need to keep all my kit dry. I'm fed up having to keep my kit dried out at home after sessions, and like I say, it was raining quite, you know, persistently this morning, but it has eased off now, thankfully. So I've got everything here under here just drying. As you can see, I've got all my ground bait there, the sieve there, I've got the XL storage bag there with all my bits and bobs in, my roosts and all that sort of thing, feeder arms. In there's my bait bag obviously, and then there's my main carry-all. Got some selection of maggot feeders in there. These EVA tubs are great for carrying feeders like that. I've got some fluoro, they're actually fluoro pinkies, not maggots, fluoro pinkies, which can be a good bait for the smaller fish. And I've got loads of different feeders and things in there. It's quite muddy behind me. I've got measuring sticks there, and basically because we're new, or I expected the river actually coming up, I've decided to sit back. I'm casting a feeder anyway. Normally in a match I would have been further down there in the water, but you know, there wasn't any need today. Alright, so I did mark it down there. One of the things that we always do on rivers like this when we're expecting them coming up or even dropping is, as soon as we get to the peg, is basically just put a stick in the edge of in the margins, right on the edge, to mark the edge of the water. That way you're going to be able to look at that at any stage, and you're going to be able to tell whether the river, you know, maybe it's staying the same, whether it's rising, whether it's dropping. It's good to have that information as an angler, because sometimes a river, if it's coming up or going down, it can change the way it's fishing. You know, and if you've got that little bit of knowledge that you know it's gone up or gone down, then it can help you make your with your decision making about how you're actually going to fish. But what I will say is, you know, it's also a great safety tool as well, particularly if you are an angler that goes out there fishing on your own, like I know lots of you do. If you're going to be sat by a river that could potentially be rising, then, you know, depending on the banks, depending on where you actually are, that can, it can be a safety issue as well, because if the water does start coming up quicker than expected, you can obviously prepare for that. You can move your gear back and all that sort of stuff. So I mean, one of the best things I can say to you is, if you are expecting it coming up severely, just don't go right down in the water, you know. Normally in a match I would be sat down there, but it is quite deep just there, and I'm only casting a feeder. You know, I've sat up nice and high, which I'll show you in a minute, and just keeps me off the water, away from the water's edge, because it is quite slippy as well, particularly when it's raining. As you can see, all the mud behind me, that was really slippy this morning. So I'm out on the platform. Well, I'm not out, I'm on the platform, as you can see. All right, just nice and comfortable. Plenty of mud, plenty of character on this foot plate now. I've got the bait brolly up, as you can see. I've got my flask under there, all my bait and everything's under there, and the rod and rig and everything I'll show you. But what I've basically just done is, I've been fishing for dace and roach, so I've been fishing with a little ground bait feeder, and then over that I kept switching it for a maggot feeder as well. Fish with size 16s hook. The one that I was using was an MXB2, size 16, 013 hook length, which breaks at about £4. And I've changed from that now. I've taken that hook length off. I've switched to a different feeder, an open-ended feeder, which I'll show you in a minute. And I've just chopped up some worms. So I've got some worms with me, and I've got some casters. They're going to be the main baits now. They're all I'm going to fish with. I've literally just put 2 feederfuls in. I've been using bronze maggots, in case you're wondering why my fingers and hands are that colour. The good old bronze maggot. So I'll put 2 feederfuls out there, just to put a few casters on the deck, on the bottom there, and obviously, you know, get a little bit of an injection of some chopped worms in there, just to hopefully kickstart it. And then I've got a hook length on there and everything ready to go. So I'm clipped up. The line that I'm fishing, I've come back a little bit, because we know the water's rising, we know there's extra water coming into the river. When you go out into that flow, it can be a problem when you go out there, because there's that much debris and weed coming through that it can be very difficult to fish it. You know, sometimes you might not be able to leave it out there more than a minute or two before you're getting weed on the line and all that sort of thing. So I've actually come back onto the edge of the flow. I'm just into the flow, and it actually worked out at just under 20 metres. So for argument's sake, I just clipped it up on the sticks at bang on 20 metres, and that's it really. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there are any bonus fish out there. So the actual setup, let me show you this. I'm using my favoured rod for this sort of fishing. It's a 12 foot distance, okay, the Horizon Pro distance. It's a 90 gram rated rod, and that is equipped with a 2.5 ounce tip, and I've got a 4,000 reel on there. Now I haven't got any shock leaders or anything like that. I know lots of people ask about the setup. No shock leaders. The main reason for that is, well, the first reason is I don't need one. I'm only casting 20 metres, and the feeder that I'm using is 30 grams, so I don't need a shock leader for that reason. And the other reason I haven't got one on as well is because when you've got rivers like this, you know, particularly when there's extra water in and there's weed coming down, quite often the knot of the shock leader can just, it's like a magnet for all that weed what comes down. It's amazing how much weed and stuff can accumulate around the actual knot. So we don't need one. So all I've got on the reel is £6 Horizon mono. That is it, okay. And then all I've got that running down to a snap leak swivel. And now the feeder that I've got on now is a 30 gram open-ended feeder, as you can see. So I can put plenty of worm and caster through on that. These have got, I mean, that's 30 gram as you can see, but as you can see, it's got ridges on the bottom. It's side weighted, ideal for rivers, and that obviously the ridges just help grip the bottom that little bit better. And below that I've got 10 centimeters of the same mono there. That's my reel line, and then I've got my 60 centimeter hook length. Now that is actually, it's 015, so it's quite a strong line. There's quite a bit of weed out here as well today, so it's 015, which breaks at around £5, and I've got that to now a size 14 MXB2 hook. There we go. I'm not going to go too big. Obviously a size 12 might be more appropriate if I'm fishing a larger, chunkier bait, but I'm not going to do that to start with. I am going to fish with worm. I don't want to be too selective at this stage, just in case there are any smaller skimmers out there or smaller breeds. So that is it. So I'll put 2 feederfuls in already. So I'm going to get a piece of worm up, get this feeder loaded with plenty of casters and some chopped worm, and see if there are any bonus fish out there. So I want to kick off with a nice piece of worm, just right size for a size 14. That's loaded with feed now. Let's get out there to that 20 metre line. Yeah, you're getting little indications. I'm just going to sit on my hands and wait. Try and only pick up when I'm sure that that there's one on. I don't leave it in too long when you're getting indications like that, because you don't know if the bait's been done. There's a little bit of weed coming down. Bait's okay. Feed wise, that's what's going in. Putting that much in every cast. I was putting more casters through, but now a little bit more worm. Just trying to be a little bit more selective. Oh, that was a pull and then a big drop back. Oh, bait's gone that time. Don't know if that was a small fish or not, but it was certainly a positive. It was one of them, and then it dropped back just when you expect one to be on when you pick up. That's just locked up. I thought I'd hook one then. I'm getting some little indications. It looked like something was on, but the feeder's snagged up, and that's the first snag I've had all day. Oh, it's moving. Wherever it is, it's moving. It's probably just a big lump of weed, I think. I don't know what it is. Oh, we've got everything back. That's the main thing. You're not going to believe what that is. That looks like the jawbone of a very large animal. Those are definitely teeth, aren't they? Those are teeth. So I could be fishing over a carcass, I think. I wonder if that's what the bite was. It was the teeth nibbling away at the worm, but yeah, that's definitely a skull, I think. Just put a worm head on. That's on a worm head about 1.5 inches long. Not exactly the bonus fish that I was after, but I think it confirms what the culprits are of what's attacking the bait. I'm just going to keep ploughing that bait in, see if it changes anything. I just had to answer a message on my phone then. That's a lovely stamp roach. That's a beautiful stamp roach, isn't it? Not the target. It's not exactly a nuisance fish, but it does show you that, I mean, you see the size of the piece of worm I'm fishing with there. Even if you could catch fish of that stamp, you know, they are bigger than the fish we were catching earlier. Indication there, and again, that's another fish. That's a better stamp fish as well. Well, how about that? I'm going to watch that weed. There's a lot of weed at about 10 or 12 metres. Let's see what this one is. Oh yeah, look at that. I can't believe that. That's a beautiful roach. Have a look at that one. That is definitely not a nuisance fish. Look at the size of that beauty. And that size 12 looks a lot better for that size worm as well. It's something I've talked a lot about on this channel, about sometimes you can get away with what appears to be a really big hook just because you're matching it to the size of your hook bait. It'll be interesting to see if this continues. Already we've found a couple of better stamp fish. Admittedly, They're not bream. But if those roach are there in that sort of size, or the hybrids, anything like that, then those are definitely better fish. And both fish have really hooked themselves as well, which is interesting. They've been really positive bites, and they've just been on. Back on a piece of worm again. It's another nice fish, definitely a net fish, bigger than the dace we were catching. That was on a bigger piece of worm. See the size of that, it's quite chunky. It seems to be picking out the better stamped roach. Pikes took that one, I think. That was a better fish. As soon as the feeder hit the bottom, another rattle on a worm head, and it suddenly got a lot heavier. I'm pretty sure a pike took this. That's a shame, because that was a good net fish as well. There's a bank of weed at about 12 metres, can't actually see it. I've been hooking it all day, especially when I had a maggot feeder on. Yeah, pretty sure pikes took this. When I had a maggot feeder on, because that doesn't come up quite as quick, it was, wasn't rising as quick, and that was coming into the weed every single time. Every fish I caught was getting caught in the weed. This is, well, I'm pretty sure a pike has took this. The fish wasn't as big as this when I hooked it, but it felt a decent net fish. That's the annoying thing about it. I would have liked to have seen don't know what happened there. He's gone. Bit me off. Oh well, that's the nature of the beast, fishing these venues. Quite often you've got to contend with pike, but interestingly it's not damaged the hook length at all, that. And it is a strong hook length, this one. It's a strong hook length anyway, but it's just taken the fish. So at least we got the rig back. What a fantastic bite that was, and it's on. It's only a small fish, but it's brilliant on a rig like this when the fish are going to be hooking themselves. Obviously got to think about getting it past pike now as well. Let's net it. I think we could have swung that one, but yeah, they're definitely heavier than the dace we were catching earlier. You see the bait, the chunky bait there, just hooked itself. Again, that's a net fish as well. Or is it? We saw how quick that was. So we can get it past the weed and past the pike. Running the gauntlet. Another net fish. You saw how quick that was. Fantastic stamp those, aren't they? Can't believe it. Well, those better stamped roach have really transformed my catch today, and it just goes to show that sometimes just by changing the bait that you're actually using, even on the current line that you're fishing, can single out some of those better quality fish. The river is actually starting to drop again now. It rose by 3 inches whilst we were actually fishing, but now it's going back down again. So it just shows you how venues like this, these large natural venues, particularly when we've had a lot of rain, how they can actually fluctuate even just within the space of 3 or 4 hours. So it's been a really important session. It's been good to try a couple of new techniques. We think we've got the basis of a team plan for our match on here next Saturday. So I just hope you've enjoyed sharing this session with us. Don't forget, this is a day ticket stretch, so it is a really enjoyable stretch to come and fish. But I hope you've enjoyed this session, and thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.